What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So we are here at Grant Ellis's hometowns of season 29 of The Bachelor. Now this season has absolutely flown by, but we have four women left: Latia, Juliana, Dina, and Zoe. Now, if you've been watching all season long, or you have watched my preseason predictions for this season of The Bachelor, again, no spoilers, no nothing on my end, but I did have Latia ending up with Grant at the end of this. The other three women in the final four going to hometowns, I did not have in the final four. Closest I got is I did have Alex as the runner-up for this season to end up with Grant. She went home last week, but besides that, we still have who I have to pick. 2 months ago, whatever it's been at the beginning of this season, to be with Grant. Still have Latia in the running here. So that's where we are at. But before we jump into this Hometowns episode, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. More Bachelor content on the channel as we move towards the end of this season here. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So our cold open is Latia's hometown, talking to Grant about how she hasn't brought home anyone outside of the Mormon faith. Grant wants to know, since he's not a Mormon, if they will accept him. Grant talks about how important it is for him to feel comfortable around a family in order to propose. So his first stop this week in hometowns is Newton, Massachusetts, for Juliana's hometown. Now taking Grant to see what it's like to be an Italian in Newton and a lot of places she knows there, they head to a pizza spot to get some pizza, actually make the pizzas, to take the pizza back to Juliana's family. They make the pizzas, have a good time, they get some flowers, some cannolis. Throwback to night one where they actually shared a cannoli, but Juliana says past experience haven't been easy for her relationships-wise, and she hasn't brought someone home, I believe she said in 6 years, and has only done this, once. So Juliana lets Grant know what to expect with her family and that he's going to be meeting, just keeps rattling off names, 20, 30, something names, I don't know, something crazy, and oh boy, we see Grant grabbing his collar a little bit like, oh boy, okay, here we go. And Grant admits he's a bit nervous, but they arrive, head to the backyard, at least 30 people in that backyard. I think they should have made some more pizzas and got some more cannolis, but they'll make it work. We hear Juliana say Wolfpack or die, and if we remember, I believe it was last week when Juliana was on a one-on-one, they were talking about Grant's lone wolf tattoo, and she talked about, kind of that lone wolf mentality too, and, Wolfpack, we've heard that before, and we hear her say to, I believe it was one of her friends or her sisters, Wolfpack or die, we hear her say, so I think that's cool that they kind of put that in there or caught that, when everyone was, saying hi, hugging everyone, but Grant gives Juliana a kiss, and scene we see from the trailer. Did you just kiss my daughter? He says, get a room, tell it's lighthearted, joking, so that's good. Obviously, the trailer played it up to be more than that, but they say they want to test him a little bit, Juliana's family, to see what his intentions are, and her dad says, I got a problem on my hands, and says about, he sees her happy and smiling, and, you got 3 more hometowns, so, I don't want to see her get hurt. Grant and Juliana's dad really do have a good conversation, though, actually, and seems like they really got off on the right foot. And her dad even tells Juliana that he loves the guy. So Grant actually tells Juliana at the end of the hometown date that he is falling for her as well. So next stop for Grant is New York City for Zoe's hometown. And going in, they probably don't have the, most connection of anyone, at least from our point of view, from what we've seen. Obviously she hasn't had a one-on-one yet, but better late than never. They did have a strong connection early, but then, there was, kind of middle portion where we didn't see a lot of their connection, but really came on the last, week or so with some conversations, from what Grant said. So better late than never. Zoe, besides being in the tech world, does some modeling, is a model. So they're doing a photo shoot. They take engagement photos. They even bring a ring into the mix, wedding photos as well. And they talk afterwards more about each other's childhoods. She tells him that they'll be meeting the people that mean the most to her tonight. Her chosen family, as she says, sister, aunt, uncle, and best friends. And at her hometown, Zoe's aunt thinks that there's still some layers to peel back with Grant. She tells her sister about not having a one-on-one, and she's like, why haven't you had a one-on-one yet? And everyone else has. And she's like, I don't know, you can ask him. And she pulls out the question right out to Grant, and he said he felt like it was more of me or her holding back. One of us was holding back, or maybe both of us, but the last 2 conversations really changed a lot. It's not too late, it's just right on time. And Grant says it doesn't make him nervous about Zoe's strained relationship with her parents. As he talks about, he didn't have the best relationship with his parents, growing up, specifically like his dad, and about his parents, arguing or not getting along. But so that said, he says that doesn't scare him or make him nervous at all. And her sister asks if they've expressed about falling in love with each other yet. He says not yet, but they're getting there, especially meeting the family. And he says that he feels the most vulnerable with her. So that is definitely something there, and they've really made big strides. Next up to Star Valley, Wyoming, for Latia's hometown. She said she's not from Wyoming. Home was her grandma's house growing up, and when she passed away, home was wherever they could all be together as a family. And they're going to be riding horses today. Latia says she's hoping he's ready to cowboy up. Grant said he was beginning to fall in love last time, and even though she felt that way, she said it feels too good to be true. That's why she hasn't said it yet. And she says if he couldn't see himself in her family, it would definitely be a deal breaker. So, first person she's brought home, not in the same religion. He said he never met someone who's Mormon before, so he just doesn't know what to expect, but is nervous, but here with an open heart and an open mind, and doesn't want her family to feel like she went rogue, on them because of him. Parents, brother, all come out to greet them when they arrive at the house. Go around the side of the house, a bunch more family. Again, huge gathering here. Got aunts, cousins, everyone there, and they play tug of rope. I'll have to bring that out at the next family get together, but looks like they hand out bracelets, necklaces, having a good time. I think it said dirty sodas on one of the signs there, but her dad says to Grant in their little one-on-one conversation that even if you're not a member of our church, we'll accept you either way. He tells her mom that he is falling in love with her daughter and can see himself with her. She says, I hope you feel comfortable with us, like there's no expectation from us. And he gets lots of support and understand, as her mom said, she's ready to start a family as soon as he is. Latia talks with her grandfather about her mom bringing home a man who didn't look like everyone else, and her grandfather is the sweetest man from the couple minutes we got of him today. Talks about how good of a man her father was and how much they love and miss Latia's grandmother. And she says, I think I love him to her grandfather. She said, I haven't told anyone yet. He says he's never seen her like this with anyone. And she tells her mom that she hasn't said this to him yet because she's scared. And fantasy suites are next week, and obviously would be hurt if he slept with someone, and obviously, she won't. So she tells her that she thinks she does love him and talks about their one-on-one dates and when he talked about eating alone in his room as a kid. And she kind of gets emotional and just said, that's when I knew that, I loved him and, wanted to give him a family. Then once they leave the family portion, say goodbye to each other, Grant says that he thinks today only strengthened their relationship. And she tells him that she's falling in love with him. And he says he's doing the same. So now Grant is off to Chicago for the final hometown of the week for Dina's hometown. They sit down and talk. You could tell kind of right away that there was something, kind of off about the vibes, but they sit down and she says her family's very traditional and they will not be there. So he will not get to meet her family, and he asks how she feels, not having that support here to support her, in this, time, possibly a couple weeks away from an engagement. And Grant says, it sucks. I'm a little bummed, and but I respect it because it's real. And they're going to go with it and just be honest with how they both feel throughout this. And Dina feels that he sees that she's maybe a little bit more uncomfortable about how this all played out. And, she knows that this could maybe make him feel like they're not as far along as some of the other women here. And her friends show up. Dina gets emotional, showing how much her friends really do mean to her. And they play games. She talks with her friends, and she's like, y'all know more about me than, maybe my family does here. And Grant talks with their friends as well, talk about how, they're both driven, they're both givers. And he said, yeah, not being in the family it's not holding back, but this journey is so short, especially now that we're at hometowns and, ready to propose here in a couple weeks. So, it's definitely, acknowledges that it's something that, it could be make or break. Dina does say that she's falling for him to her friends, starting to see, kind of the end of the road here and, would want her family's blessing. But, if not, she said that is something that she could possibly overcome. But her friends say they don't just bring people into the family, but once you're in, they wrap their arms around you and accept you. But also, if she's happy, it seems like they'll embrace it from what it sounds like from her friends. So that's it for the hometowns. Back in LA, Grant meets up with Joey, grab a drink, talk about hometowns, what to expect here, kind of coming up the last, handful of weeks here. Joey with some good advice, when you start to feel something, especially at this point in the journey, like take a beat. Let yourself feel it. The girls are all talking as well. Talk about their hometowns. Not awkward at all. Dina, a little nervous. Obviously only one who hasn't got to, introduce Grant to her family, but did get to, her friends, basically family from what it seems like, very close, but still everyone else talking about, meeting their family, big family get-togethers and stuff. So obviously, rightfully so, her feeling nervous. Grant talks about Dina's family not showing up to Joey and, maybe being a little uninviting or turned off, but they tackled it together. And like Joey said, sometimes when problems arise or something comes up in this journey, it's good because you get to see how people react and, how things go. And, I kind of agree there. And I thought that they handled it pretty well, at least from what we've seen. Joey tells him to listen to your gut feeling at these rose ceremonies. Like, he's like, I know you're a finance guy, what statistics and, everything, but there's something about gut feeling that you just got to listen to. As he said, that's what he did with Kelsey, throughout this journey as well when he was the Bachelor. So we head towards the rose ceremony, and hey, they changed it up. We aren't at the normal Final Four, plain hangar for the rose ceremony location. Looks like we're at some theater, but we're at the rose ceremony, and Latia, Juliana, and Zoe get the roses to move on to Fantasy Suites overnight dates into next week. So Dina's going home. Unfortunately, probably the not meeting the family was probably just that, nail in the coffin. Even though they did have a strong connection throughout this and, it was continuing to grow. And even though they made the best of the day, getting to be around our friends and everything, at the hometown, tough decision. You can tell from Grant struggled with it, but hoping for the best for Dina. Seems like genuinely a good person, and Grant acknowledges that he had a really strong connection with her, but just had to go with his gut. So next week we get the preview. Women Tell All is next week. That'll definitely be interesting. And then in 2 weeks we are in the DR. We have overnights. Seems like Grant and Juliana really connect even deeper. We kind of seen that with their one-on-one. Recently really getting really close, connected, emotional, and seems like we have that as well. They're opening up more, crying, emotional. Both of them are. So you're just really strengthening that connection there. And Latia says her biggest fear is Grant being intimate with someone else. So Grant said, I'll finish this out before I have some more thoughts. Grant says that he genuinely doesn't know what he's going to do with the proposal next week after this. And Grant says, stay tuned for his demise. So my hope for the, yes, next week, I think the Women Tell All is going to be, it is going to be telling, is going to be, good to watch, and, definitely some, drama with Carolina and, everything else, so excited to see, to see that and kind of put a bow on, that portion before we get to the final three women here. And, Grant, makes a decision to, propose for someone here as we move towards the end of the season. But for the final three and the overnight dates, I just really hope that the franchise, the producers, everyone has learned from past mistakes that they made, because, you can go back to, Madison and Peter, go back to, you could go back to a handful of other seasons that this has happened on, where it is known that someone in the final three who is going into the overnight dates is uncomfortable and is potentially a deal breaker, for Madison specifically. I know, things, went on and afterwards, whatever. Besides the fact that if someone is intimate, if the lead is intimate with someone else, then that's probably a deal breaker. And we saw the backlash for that, what that caused. We saw Peter get engaged to Hannah Ann there, and then obviously taking the ring back, and the mess from that. And there's been a handful of other, things that have been messed up with the final three overnights, fantasy suites before. So I just really hope that, production and everything, they've learned their kind of lesson here. And it's like, hey, we know, like, especially from the edit, so I'm sure they know in the moment, like, Latia seems like she's a front runner. I'm still like, it's no disrespect. It was no disrespect, but it just seems like as of right now, from the edit, we're getting as fans, obviously months after this has been filmed, that, it seems like Latia and Juliana are, clearly like a little bit ahead of where the pack was right now. So if you're knowing this when you're doing this, you hear this in the confessionals, give Latia the first date so she can, possibly express this to Grant. Not giving him an ultimatum, just letting her know how she feels, and who knows, maybe, we hear it kind of a little bit in the, in the trailer, the preview for this episode, but, maybe it won't be a complete deal breaker. She said she would, be, upset about it, but I just really hope Latia goes first. And, who knows, maybe Grant, and I think kind of, taking this approach is probably the best approach for leads. It's just like, let's just not, just don't sleep with anyone. Just use that time to, without cameras, get to know each other. And then it's like, if someone doesn't share that, maybe someone isn't comfortable sharing that because they want to just see how you're going to navigate this situation, and use that as kind of a decision for yourself, because at the end of the day it's still a two-way street. So I think that's the best way to go. I hope Grant goes that route too. I kind of think he will, but I obviously don't know. I have no idea. I'm just hoping. That seems like the best route to go for success here, but we know that it is lining up to, looks like, to be a dramatic finale as well. The women are both driving there and still don't know, hey, who's going first? Who are you proposing to? And he still doesn't even know. So definitely seems like we're coming fast to a dramatic ending here. I know the final three rose ceremony will be tough and emotional as well, but seems like that final one will definitely be even more emotional as we get there as well. But definitely this season has flown by, as we are already past hometowns. We are going towards the women tell all next week, and I definitely think that this was episode 6, I think it was. So, I mean, we're coming down here. I definitely think they're going to stretch these last couple episodes out. I wouldn't be surprised and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, if they already have the schedule out there for how it's going to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if, next week we get the women tell all. 2 weeks from now, we get the final three rose ceremony, or final 3 episode overnight dates, fantasy suite dates, whatever. But then that final week, if we get, maybe a 2-night type thing, I hope they don't, pull it like, oh, Monday, oh, next week. I hope they do. I know they've done it before. I don't know ABC's schedule right now, but if they do like a Monday and a Tuesday type thing that they have done before, I wouldn't mind that, kind of, spreading this out a little bit. It has been a short season, and I think there's still a lot to get to know of, Grant, these women. So, and it definitely seems like, the finale, with his final 2 is a really tough decision. I mean, all these decisions are tough, but, just from the trailers we've got, that's what it seems like so far. So, I definitely think that they'll probably try to, stretch this out here towards the end. But, anyway, that'll do it for this one. We'll definitely be back next week with a recap for the Women Tell All. Obviously, the Women Tell All, Men Tell All, those are obviously usually a little bit shorter episodes because it's just, kind of recapping stuff from the season. I know this one was probably our longest recap of the season, but it was definitely a big episode with Hometown. So anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.